What's up, everyone? This is KillerVzTwo, and you're watching my review of the Order 1886, the PlayStation exclusive game. The gameplay in the background, I thought it would be neat if I just showed you gameplay. This is when you're in direct control of your character. I'm doing this for a couple reasons. A, to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, which it is. It is very, very spoiler-free. And the other reason is to illustrate a point, which I will get to later, but just enjoy the gameplay in the background. I'm playing on the hardest difficulty setting, so enjoy and let's get into this. Now, this is the internet, so you're either watching this video because you haven't played the game yet and you want to know if it's good, worth buying, that sort of thing, or you're looking for someone to validate, your opinions. I'm going to try to keep this as unbiased as possible. None of this, oh, you hate this game because you're an Xbox fanboy, or the only reason you like this game is because you're a PlayStation fanboy. I own both systems. I like both systems very much. So, I'm looking at this as a game, not necessarily what system it's on. So if you're worried about that, don't be. So I want to start this out, with this little summary. So the Order 1886. The year is 1886. You are a member of the Round Table. You're a knight. You all have mystical powers brought to you by the Blackwater, which is not really described much, but kind of gives you immortality, longer lifespans, that sort of thing. And you're basically protecting the world from lycans, aka werewolves, and vampires. That's their primary directive. And the game flows from there. Conspiracies, what have you, twists and turns, action, romance, yada yada yada. Okay, summary over. Let's get to a couple of things I've been seeing around the internet. I really want to point out some factual things about this first. First of all, the game is 1080p, 30 frames per second. It is 1080p. I cannot stress that enough. I see so many people saying, oh, the black bars make it 900 or 720 or, the aspect ratio affects resolution. It does not, okay? Now, there's a couple articles you can go out, Google, I'm not going to name any, that actually give, what the difference is between resolution and aspect ratio. But if you're looking at your screen or if you've played this game, you'll notice there's a black bar at the top, black bar at the bottom. That's not my doing, that is the game's doing. Okay, basically what it is it's just not rendering, screen images up top and below. That they're not shrinking the image down, they're not doing, imagine right now he's walking, okay, right here. Imagine you can actually see everything here. I'm going to try to dumb this down. Some of you are going to be saying, oh, this isn't 100% technically, but I'm just trying to explain to you what the difference is. Aspect ratio, simply, it changes your perspective. That's basically what they're doing. They're cutting it off, trying to give it that little cinematic-y kind of feel, maybe a little, gritty, get you in there, make it more claustrophobic. It is 1080p. All you have to do is imagine that you can see a little bit of his legs walking there, you can see a little bit of the roofs there, that sort of thing. And then imagine, if you're not very good at your imagining, spatially or what have you. I'm sorry, but this is how I'm going to explain it. Imagine you have that full screen view there. That's 1080p. Now imagine beside it, you have another full screen view of 720. Okay? Now just put the black bars at the top and bottom of each. Which one's going to look better? The 1080. Just simply turning off, I'm doing air quotes here, you can't see it, turning off the pixels up at the top and the bottom does not change the resolution. The pixels are still the same size as 1080p. Okay, it doesn't make it into a 900 or a 720 or anything like that. It's aspect ratio. It is your perspective, your aspect, how you're viewing it. Okay? I just wanted to, clarify that. Another thing that is just a fact. This is a short game. I don't care if you're the slowest person that's ever played video games. This is not going to be, an epic, long anything. This is a very short game. Okay? Think back to Ground Zeroes, Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. Like, not that short, but the ending, it surprises you. You almost kind of feel like, oh, you're just getting into it, that sort of thing. Like, that's factually, it is a short game. I mean, you could speed run this thing, and it's linear, so it's not like, glitch speed running as many people do with, open worlds, glitching quests, that sort of thing. Just the linear progression, the fights, everything. It can be speed run in a matter of a couple hours. So, that being said, get a couple of those out of the way. I don't like giving games scores. Okay, I've never liked that. My idea of a good review is kind of pros, cons, naming things that aren't necessarily pros or cons, or more, if this is your kind of deal, because that's what we're doing, If I give, you go on, you look at an IGN review, they gave a game a 10 out of 10. There's no reason for anyone not to like that. By that definition, that's a perfect game. Everyone should love it. I guarantee you, we've all seen games on IGN that are 10s out of 10s, 9s out of 10s, 9.5. The decimal system can get a little ridiculous, 9.8s and what have you. Okay, that we all disagree with. So I get rid of the numbers, pros, cons, couple my experiences to kind of show you, if you would like these experiences, that kind of deal. I think that's the best way to review things. So let's start with the pros. The atmosphere and immersion. I really felt immersed. I felt, like I was one of the knights. The environments are beautiful. The game's beautiful in general. It's not the best looking game, as many people have described. Certain titles stand out, like, for instance, Killzone Shadowfall. That was an amazing looking game. But this is beautiful. I'm going to have to say, one of the most fluid experiences. The way the cutscenes, and there's a lot of cutscenes, which we will get to. It's all in engine. It doesn't cut necessarily between gameplay and cutscene. It blends. The camera simply shifts back to your third-person perspective, and the game continues on. In fact, during some cinematics, the AI is actually shooting at you. I've taken damage in cinematics before just because the AI managed to get a couple shots off while my guy's running for cover. I think that's amazing. That is an absolutely cool thing. Another thing on a technical level, the animation. The body capture in this is flawless. Whoever did the body capture artist, whatever it is you call them, I'm blanking at the moment. It's done beautifully. The facial capture is absolutely perfect, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is getting, mouth alignment, facial. This clearly was done with all the newfangled, dots to the face kind of cameras everywhere stuff. It's amazing. The voice acting is great. Everyone, the important characters, they give, when they're trying to convince you of something, they're boastful, they're emotive, all of this stuff. You can, and again, going back, it goes hand in hand with the facial. You can tell when a character's conflicted, that sort of thing, and I'm sure that, the voice actors were all hooked up because, get all their faces and stuff. I mean, they did an absolutely great job, so that's definitely a plus. Another plus is the weapon variety. I was surprised. It's a pretty diverse set of weapons. Many weapons have the secondary ability, like the weapon you're seeing here, has a sort of like knockback, pulsey kind of deal that stuns them. Many other weapons have their own secondaries. Many of the weapons, even like the arc lightning gun, are just so diverse, so different from other guns. It works well. I felt certain guns were obviously better in certain situations, but I always felt like there was plenty of choice. I could kind of use what I want, that sort of thing, especially as far as sidearms go. That was really just preference, the weaker, faster shooting, the heavier, slower shooting, that sort of thing. I really like the weapon variety. And the weapon detail. When you find a new weapon in this game, you're actually... everything, the kind of story just kind of stops for a second, and you're able to just move around your gun, examine it, just flip it and flop it all kinds of different directions, which I think is just a neat little thing to have in it. It's the little details like that, just stop for a second and just admire some of the, details and animations. Now, that's just, a good handful of pros. Let's get to some cons. Replayability. This is by far the biggest problem. The game's short, but shortness, just like linearness, if that's a word, okay, is not necessarily a bad thing. Take Ground Zeroes, for example. The main story of that game can be beaten in half an hour. Easily. But it's such a big, expansive, one level environment, admittedly, but then with all the bonus missions, the collectibles, all kinds of different things, multiple different kind of side mission endings, the ranking system, all of that. This game, I played through it. Okay, my main playthrough, it was a leisure. I was not speed running through it. I was taking my time. I'd say it was right around 7 hours when I beat it. Normal difficulty. I then spent an extra 20 minutes going back and missing the half a dozen collectibles I missed. And I had 100%ed the game at that point. The only thing left, you could argue, for me to do was to beat it on hard, which I did eventually go back and do. But again, even after playing through the game, being used to it, the hard mode run was even shorter. I beat that in around 6 hours. And again, that's not me speedrunning it. It's just, I was then used to the game, familiar with enemy movements, pop-ups, strategies, that sort of thing. It's short. It's very short. But again, not a problem. It's just, there is no incentive other than maybe going back, beating on hard. But if you beat on hard the first time, there's no incentive to play it again. No matter how great a story... in fact, that's all I'm going to say. It's like watching a movie again. That's the incentive, is just to see the cutscenes again. Really, that's about it, other than maybe missing a couple collectibles going back, but that's not a great reason. That's sort of like a nitpicky completionist kind of thing. But again, playing leisurely, not searching every corner. I missed half a dozen of the 70 collectibles. They're not hidden. There's no amazing, great Easter eggs you can activate, that sort of thing. So replayability, customization. If you did not pre-order, get any pre-order bonuses, there is no customization. There's no outfits, no gun skins. All of that is just from pre-ordering. No experience system, no money system, that sort of thing. It is a very linear, straightforward. They have a story they want to tell, that sort of deal. You're watching, which we will get to. I'll bring that up later. For a game so heavily set in this vampire werewolf lore setting, you do kill quite a handful of lichens. You never fight any vampires. Maybe they're saving that for the sequel. I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. I felt like that was a letdown. There was no me killing vampires. There was no werewolves fighting vampires while I'm fighting them kind of interaction. I just feel like that was a missed opportunity. And really, another big one, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the vampire one, maybe some of the customization, that sort of thing. Closure. The story, the ending, if you don't know it's a short game, the ending sneaks up on you. I mean, it's cliffhanger-y. It's sequel bait is what it is. It's these guys are 100% expecting a sequel. I hope there is a sequel. I really do. I will say this right now. Overall, I enjoyed my time with this. The biggest deal is I don't feel it was worth the $60 price tag. But again, we will get to that. It's not its own enclosed standalone. It could be its own game, a sequel. If it does good, then we make a sequel. It's clearly set up to be a new franchise, which is ballsy. But as a game alone itself, the ending doesn't quite pay off how I like game endings to pay off. Now, let's move on to some preferences. I have them listed here as more, you can think of them as neutrals. These are things that It's completely opinion based, whether these are pros or cons, at least more so than the other ones. The aspect ratio, I'm fine with the black bars up and top. Like I just explained, it doesn't affect your resolution, that sort of thing. It's simply a kind of cinematic, it's a direction. It's their artistic license, if you will. Another game that did that's Evil Within, and to be honest, the black bars in that were, I think, bigger. And I didn't have a problem with that. That's my personal opinion. Maybe you do have a problem. Maybe you're sitting there, you have your big old 80-inch TV, you want to use all of it. I can understand that, but it does not bother me. Another thing is the frame rate. It's only 30, which, being on PlayStation 4, and also these black bars would mean it's rendering less. I really feel like it wouldn't have had a problem being at 60. Again, I'm fine with 30 because, in my opinion, the overall frame rate doesn't matter. It's the steadiness of the frame rate. I would rather have a game that's 30 frames per second, never drops to 29 once, which this game didn't for me. Smooth as can be. I would rather have that than a game that's 60 frames, sometimes drops to 55, drops to 50, back up to 60. Seeing, even though that's still, on average, way better than 30, it's the changing of it, the non-steadiness that affects it. It can be jarring. Shortness, not necessarily a bad thing. I'm fine with it if there's replayability, which this game does not have. Cutscenes, long cutscenes. I love Metal Gear. I can deal with cutscenes. I love cutscenes. I love the way movies and games are intertwining now. I'm fine with that. Quantic Dream games, that sort of deal. Linear. I can be fine with linear. If you're telling a great story, that sort of thing, it can work. QTEs, again, can work if they're implemented correctly. This game, the QTEs are a little lazy. And the genre. The game kind of lacks a genre. It flirts with third person. It flirts with survival. But it feels mashed together. That's my opinion on the game. I hope you liked. Comment, subscribe, and I'll, leave you with this. Some interesting timing. Fighting with a naked guy. I will see you later.